Hi, my name is Jackson Mumey. I'm the president and owner of Celebration Bar Review. I appreciate you taking a few minutes to find out more about the California First Year Exam, or as it's affectionately known, the California Baby Bar. I'm going to jump right into the information. We've got a lot of ground to cover, and I hope that this is helpful to you. I'm going to talk a little bit about the exam as well as our course, and I invite you to contact me if you have additional questions. Well, to begin with, the first year or baby bar exam is given only twice a year. It's given in the months of October and it's given in the month of June. Now, it's administered in two locations at least, and those two locations are Los Angeles and San Francisco. Over the years and from time to time, the test has been given in Pasadena and Oakland, but you want to check. Currently, I think it's just LA and San Francisco. Now, we'll talk more about who's eligible and who needs to take the test, but many people taking this test do not reside in the state of California, so you want to be aware of where you have to go and getting your hotel and transportation set up early. Now, you can prepare for this exam anywhere that you live in the world. That's because we're a home study course. And if you're exploring information about Celebration Bar Review, I assume that you're already familiar somewhat with the requirements to take the exam. But in case you're not, let me just briefly review some of the highlights and to invite you to check the California Bar Examiner's website for updated information, and always they're the final authority on all of these things. Now, it's a requirement in California that if you intend to ultimately sit for the California Bar Exam, or what we call the General Bar, then at the completion of your first year of law school, you need to sit and pass this first year law exam. Now, that's an overly broad statement. There are some major exceptions to that requirement. The first and most important exception is that it is not a requirement for any student who has satisfactorily completed the first year of law school in a school that is accredited by the Committee of Bar Examiners, in other words, the American Bar Association. If you're at an ABA-approved law school, you're at Cal or Stanford, you're at USC, fight on, wherever it might be, you don't need to worry. You won't have to take this exam. It is also not a requirement to take the baby bar if you finished your first year of law school in a school that is provisionally accredited by the ABA at the time you complete your first year of law instruction. So, if you're in a traditional ABA law school, you don't need to sit for this exam. You won't have to worry until you take the California General Bar, and you should look at our course materials for the California Bar Exam, not the baby bar. Now, the second exception to the requirement to take the baby bar is that if you've passed the bar in another United States jurisdiction, even if you went to an unaccredited law school, let's say it was a state-accredited school in Georgia, or if you are a foreign-trained attorney in a common law jurisdiction, for example, any place in the United Kingdom or India, any place that comes out of English jurisprudence, that would generally not include, for example, Hong Kong. Well, it would include Hong Kong, would not include China, for example. Probably does not include most of the Eastern European jurisdictions. If you're coming out of one of those areas, you need to take the baby bar. But if you're coming from a common law jurisdiction, a country, then you don't need to take the first year baby bar exam. You'll simply have to take the California General Bar, and you want to look at our page for foreign trained attorneys. So again, the emphasis then for you goes from the baby bar to the California General Bar. So to recap, if you're attending an unaccredited law school, or if you're in a correspondence law school, then you do need to sit for this exam. Now you're in the right place. Those are the people that I want to be talking to. And I'm not going to go through the details of when you have to take it and how it counts for your first year in terms of giving you credit for that first year of law school. That information comes both from the bar examiners and from your law school, and you should look at it in detail if you've not already requested it. But if you're coming from a California State school or a correspondence law school, you're going to have to take this exam, and presumably you know that. Now, if you've got questions about whether or not you do need to take the exam, talk to your law school dean, talk to the bar examiners, and get that information correct. It's a waste of time, energy, and money to be taking an exam you don't need to take. Now, assuming that you are supposed to take the baby bar exam, you're in the right place listening and watching the right information, let's talk a little bit about the exam itself, what's on the exam, and the approach that we use in Celebration Bar Review for many years quite successfully to deal with this test. Now, the contents, the subject matter of the exam are pretty straightforward and actually fairly simple. There are only 3 subjects that are going to be tested on the exam, and those 3 subjects are first, contracts, which includes all of Articles 1 and 2 in the Uniform Commercial Code, the UCC. The second topic is criminal law, and the third subject is torts. That's it, those three subjects. Now, fortunately, all three of those subjects, contracts and sales as one, criminal law, and torts, they are all covered in the general multi-state bar examination that's given to all general bar applicants around the country. And that bar exam is what Celebration Bar Review has done for years and years and years. That's the core of our multi-state course. Now, the general and the baby bar exam are what we've been preparing students to take since the early 1990s. I've been working with students for the California General Bar and for the baby bar for now nearly 20 years. So as a result, we've got a pretty good feeling for what's on the exam and how to prepare you for it. Now, the way that the exam is structured for the baby bar is different than the general bar. First, this is only a one-day test. The general bar is 3 days and has 3 different components, but here we've only got 2 components. And the way the day is set up is that you begin in the morning with a 4-hour session. In the afternoon session, you've got 3 hours, so it's a total of 7 hours in the exam. In the morning session, you're going to be given 4 separate essay questions. They're not quite an hour in length. Each one is more like a 45 to 50-minute question, and they are separated again from the 3 subjects of contracts, criminal law, and torts. So obviously there's going to be a second question in one of those areas, and that rotates around, and it's different from exam to exam. Then after the lunch break in the afternoon, you're going to be given the multiple choice section of the test. This is 100 multiple choice questions, again from the same 3 subjects, but done in a 3-hour period. Now, 100 questions in 3 hours is identical to what the multi-state bar exam does in both of its sections, and the format of those questions is very similar, the fact patterns, the approaches, and so on. In fact, these are multi-state bar questions for these subjects drafted by the National Conference of Bar Examiners. So, the good news is that we're then able to use the same approach to prepare you for these 3 subjects in the baby bar as we would use for graduated students and practitioners who are taking the multi-state and the California General Bar exam. Basically what that means from our standpoint is that we're going to take you through a course of study that's built with 3 components. First, you'll do reading in each of the subjects. Then you'll listen to or watch audio or video lectures, and we're doing more and more video all the time, but essentially audio lectures on those subjects. And then you're going to do practice questions, both essays and multiple choice. Now, the cool part of all of this is that you get to repeat this material and go through it and get practice and feedback, and I think that's particularly helpful with how to do this. In terms of the books, we use narrative outlines for each subject. The books are in great detail and you use them as supplemental material, but they also help put a foundation into the work that you're doing. When it comes to the lectures, my goal in the lecturing is to put that material together, tie it together, and show you how it fits for the purposes of an exam. And then the question practice, and that's really the important part. Now, in our course, we have hundreds of multi-state questions. They go, they're licensed to us, and they go back as late as 1991, but also as 2006, the most recent released questions. And what's really important about the multi-state questions is that we write answer explanations for each answer choice. So the way that you practice is that you do a question, you answer it, and then you look at the explanations for each answer choice, then you go to the next question and do the same thing again. The idea here is that you're going to build on your learning, and I think you'll find that that's particularly helpful. We want you to understand why you got an answer wrong as much as why you got an answer right. Now, our course for the first year exam includes approximately 500 questions spread out over those subjects with the 4 explanations for each choice. So really you're getting about 2,000 pieces of information for you to review, and that's more than enough. We'll cover contracts, criminal law, and torts, and we'll give you an answer explanation for every answer choice in those questions. Now let me say one thing about criminal law specifically. In the multi-state exam, criminal law actually includes criminal law and procedure. And there are some courses out there that just take their multi-state and they repackage it and put it out. And so you end up with a lot of criminal procedure, which is not tested on this exam at all. We've extracted the criminal procedure reading, the criminal procedure lectures, and the criminal procedure questions so that you're really only dealing with criminal law. So it's a much more efficient way through that particular subject. Now, again, as I said, these questions come from and are derived from the National Conference of Bar Examiners, of whom we are a licensee. So the questions that we're using represent the latest trends in these types of questions. They're very similar to what you'll see on the baby bar, though they're obviously not the exact questions. So that's the multi-state part, or the afternoon part. Now let me turn our attention back to the morning and the essays. One of the most difficult things about writing an essay, or any writing really, I think, is to understand who your audience is and to write appropriately for them. And one of the difficulties in the first year exam is that sample questions and sample answers produced by the examiners and that are out there don't give people much of a sense of what the exam is really about. Sometimes there's real confusion about how to write for the bar versus how to write for law school. It's important to understand here that the readers are the examiners. They're the same people that read and examine and evaluate the California General Bar exam. So we take what we've learned over the years in the California General Bar, where we have a pass rate of well over 80%, and we put that into our baby bar experience. And we not only take those questions, but we help you draft the kinds of answers and how to write those answers and put that into our course. For a number of years, I've been working with and considering the kinds of questions that come up on this test. I've got a good track record of working with the examiners to help our students provide the types of answers the examiners are looking for. So as part of our first year baby bar course, what we do is to begin with an essay writing workshop. I'm going to take you step by step about how to write a passing bar review essay for the baby bar. It will be different than what you learned in law school, but we found over the years that it's quite successful. It will be very helpful. You'll have not only step-by-step instructions, but you'll actually have a model answer to look at, and then depending on the mentoring choices that you take, and I'll talk about those more in a moment, you'll have the opportunity to talk with us or get feedback from us about your written work. But the point is, we're going to show you in this course how to take the question, take it apart, discover where the disputes and the problems are, then reassemble that information and write about it in a short time period. And so we have you practice that experience. Now what we do is to use past California and past baby bar questions in the subjects that are tested, and we want you to practice and evaluate your writing. Now in our course, we have 4 different mentoring options, and it ranges all the way from minimal assistance up to maximum assistance. So let me start with the minimal. We have a course called Materials Only, and in the Materials Only course, we're not going to review your written work. You're just going to get everything I've described. You'll have sample answers, you'll have discussions in the lectures about essays, as well as the multiple choice. And you follow that through with the study guide that we give you, which is a list of assignments in detail, how long each one takes, what order to work. It's a very successful course, and it's the least expensive of the course options. So that's certainly one option to consider. Now, if you think you'd like to have some feedback on your work, the next option is what we call written or email mentoring. And in that option, you'll be directed in your study guide to send specific writing from the essay writing workshop right on through the 3 subjects. Send that in to us. We will then have that work evaluated by one of our senior editors, who will fill out basically a template evaluation of your work and email that back to you. And that's done very promptly. It's very thorough. It's extraordinarily thorough, actually. And it's a great way if you just, for whatever reason, don't want to talk about your work, you'd rather just get a written evaluation. In that course, you're typically going to get 5 written critiques of your work. The writing workshop, 3 subjects, and then a final wrap-up for you. The next level of service is what we call our basic phone mentoring. In basic phone mentoring, it works the same way. You'll be directed to send specific essays, but now you'll send them to me directly, and then we will conference by telephone about that work. Now, is that a little frightening? Sometimes. I'm not mean, but I'm a demanding teacher, and I really want to work with those people that absolutely have to pass their baby bar. So I limit the number of students I take in this course to 50 students total. And the idea here is that we'll talk about your work, and typically I will talk with a student in this course 5 to 10 times about their work, and frankly I'll probably have you do some rewrites just to help you learn the writing style and methodology. Then if you want more than that, we have what we call premium mentoring. And in premium mentoring, you're getting unlimited access to me. I limit this course to only 25 students. Essentially, I'll work with you as many times on as many essays as is necessary to make sure that you're absolutely ready to pass the exam. If you absolutely have to pass this baby bar and you're committed to doing it, I strongly suggest that you look at the premium mentoring information. And if you want to work on that on a monthly basis, we have something called the Permanent Access Subscription Service, or PASS. You'll see references on our website to that. That's premium mentoring that you pay for on a monthly basis. So you've got a wide range of services. You'll be dealing with me directly in the basic phone mentoring or premium mentoring, and you'll be getting written emails critiques and evaluations from our staff in the written service, and then there's materials only. So you've got a lot of different options that you can pursue all the way through this material. And each of those come with their own prices, and there are some discounts available for you as necessary. So, which one should you choose? Well, in my experience in dealing with California first-year exam, most of the unaccredited and correspondence law schools are not particularly strong in teaching writing. And to the extent that they teach it, they tend to teach IRAC, which is not very productive for the bar exam, hasn't been very successful over the years. And so frankly, I think you need as much assistance as you can afford and as you can get. Our focus in the mentoring part is to teach you how to write and how to write successfully for the bar exam. Will that help you in law school? Maybe, but if you have a professor that wants you to IRAC and do something of that nature, we're not really focused there. We're focused on how you get through this exam. So the idea here is to help you focus on writing for the California bar examiners, to show you what they want, and that may be different than what you do in school. We designed the course to give you a fair amount of feedback if you choose one of the mentoring options, and that's what makes this a more personal and frankly a more successful way to prepare for the exam rather than sitting in a large class and simply reviewing along with everyone else. Now the great news is that we offer a pass guarantee with each of these courses. If you complete all of the assignments and you fail the exam, you can retake the California Baby Bar on the next administration with us, and there's no charge for our basic course to resit the exam. Well, what about our success rate? Well, in general, on the Baby Bar, over more than a decade, we've got a pass rate that exceeds 50%. And while that's dramatically lower than the California General Bar at 80%, it's way higher than the overall state average, which sometimes is as low as 10 or 12% on this exam. So we do a much, much better job and have for many years, but we're a smaller course and we're more personalized. We recognize that if you're taking this exam, you probably have already a full-time job or a family or other requirements or commitments in addition to your law school studies. We know that your time is valuable, and we recognize that the stress of preparing for the exam is intense on top of maybe studying or working or taking care of your family. So what we do is to set up a study guide for you, the list of assignments that I mentioned earlier, and you follow that depending on the mentoring option you've chosen. We don't put it on a calendar because we want you to have the maximum amount of flexibility. You can decide what time of day to study or what day to study, but we do want you to study in a particular order. It's a very detailed roadmap for you, and the great news is you can begin studying early, and we encourage that. While we can work with you in 30 days or 40 days, there's about 35 assignments in this course, each of which averages about 3 hours in length. But if you want to start a year in advance, we can accommodate that, and we're glad to do so. The idea is that the earlier you begin, the less amount of time you have to put in on a weekly basis, and we make sure that the course does enough review at the end that you'll be ready on that part of the exam. So the good news is that you can begin when you're ready, and you can work at your pace. Now, a couple of observations about our course and how it relates to the exam. I think the materials in this course will assist you if you're taking any law school course in contracts, crim, or torts, and I know that the writing part of our course will be helpful to you down the road to make you a better and a stronger writer. But I also want to emphasize that our purpose in this course is really not to get you through law school, and that's a common question I get from people. There are other materials that we also offer in regard to that. There's a website that we own called lawstudygroup.com, but that's not our focus here with the Baby Bar. All we want you to do is to get ready to pass the exam, and so we focus everything just that way. Now, in the course, as I said, you'll have the opportunity to listen to audio lectures, then and that will follow your reading, and then you'll practice the multi-state or the essay exams. And because the course and the subject are relatively compact, you're only dealing with these 3 subjects, it is a manageable test. Now, the hard part in the California bar exam, the large exam, is that you've got 6 multi-state subjects and a number of California state-specific subjects, so the scope of that test is much broader. But this is a narrow scope test, and it's something you should be able to get through. That's the good news. Now, is there any bad news about the exam? Well, yes. As you undoubtedly know, and as I referred, the pass rate for the exam is not very high at all. In some years over the last decade, it's been less than 10%. And I think it's only reasonable to ask why that would be so. I believe that the pass rate really derives from 2 factors. One is that the passing number that you need for this exam is very high, so I think I need to explain the scoring to you. Let me start there. Each part of the exam, and there are two parts again, are allocated an equal weight of 50%. You can earn up to a total of 800 points on this exam. There will be given 100 points for each of the 4 essays for a total of 400, and then there are 400 points available on the multistate or the multiple choice portion of the exam. So in effect what happens is that each multiple choice question is worth 4 points, each essay is worth 100. A passing score of 560 or higher is required on the overall exam. Now if you look at that number a little more clearly, what becomes obvious, I think, is that if you just scored to the mean on each of the 4 essays, in other words, if you only got 50 out of the 100 raw points on each of the essays, that would give you 200 points. You would then need to get 360 points on the multiple choice, which means that at 4 points, you'd have to get 90 of those questions correct, and that would be very difficult for anyone to do. Now, just to give you a sense of this, on the big multistate, the MBE exam, the passing score on the body of 200 questions would be about 125 to 130 correct. So when we talk about this exam, we would anticipate that if you could get 60 to 70 of your 100 questions correct, you'd be doing very well. So let's reverse the process from there and assume for a moment that you got 60 multiple choice questions correct. Remember, you get 4 points credit for each, and that comes out then to 240 points. Now you need 560 to pass, so in effect you now need another 320 points, which translates to 80 for each of the 4 essays. Now that's not easy to do. It means you have to write 4 very high quality essays. Now, I don't see it as being particularly feasible for those who do extremely well on 2 or 3 of the essays and then blow up on one of them. Most of those people don't pass the exam. So you have to do well across the board, all 4 essays. This is one of the reasons that we don't put a premium on memorizing and reciting. The fact is the examiners can ask more than you can memorize or recite. So we're going to use a writing method, a proprietary writing method, that puts much more emphasis on how you use the law as you know it to make arguments, which is really the skill that's being tested on the essays. I think that in effect, when you look at the scoring, you'll see that it takes a consistent effort. You have to be prepared for how to write for that extended period of 4 hours and write in a way that the examiners are looking. Now, we've had good success, as I say, on both the California General Bar as well as the Baby Bar. Our pass rate in California is well over 80% for now 13 or 14 years. That's compared to the state official rate of around 40 to 50%. So we've got a good track record there using the same writing approach. On the Baby Bar exam, our pass rate has been climbing up over the years. When I first started doing this, we were about 30 to 40%. Now we're over 50%, which is very good, even though it's a low rate. But you can see how hard it is to pass this exam, what a high score you need to be successful. So really, I'm looking for people who are prepared to do the work and make the effort and who are teachable. And that leads me to my second reason why people might not pass the exam. I think there are a couple of reasons. The first, obviously, is that the scoring threshold is very, very high. And they're simply those people who aren't disciplined enough to go through the course completely and prepare themselves for the exam. They may start out with lots of energy, but then they trail off very easily. There are some people who are in the position of having to take this exam because they've been looking for the path of least resistance. The truth is the exam was put in place by the California legislature and the bar examiners precisely to stop that kind of person. So if you're really not serious about your studies, this exam is going to be the stop point for you. There are certainly people that buy the course and don't do the assignments, and they typically don't pass the exam. Another reason that I think people fail the exam is for those for whom English may not be a first language, those who come from foreign countries who have not had a background in common law jurisdictions, and for whom English may not be a first language. They may have some difficulty with timing and frankly may not have given themselves enough time to prepare for the test. If that's your situation, give yourself at least 6 months to a year to get ready for the test. It is very important that you be proficient in English and be able to work in a timely fashion. And then finally, I think there are some people who just simply aren't serious enough about the exam or about their law school studies to do the work. They really haven't put enough into this process. It's a reality of the exam, and the test is designed as a barrier to people who are not serious. So because we're a limited enrollment course, I need to tell you that those sorts of folks, when they contact me, I try to discourage from taking our exam and taking our course. One of the things that I'm looking for are those people who absolutely feel like they have to pass their California Baby Bar. When they're motivated and when you're motivated that way, then I can teach you and I can get you through the exam if you do what I ask you to do. But if you're really not all that motivated, frankly, this is a test that you're not likely to pass, and I'd rather tell you that today, 25 minutes in, than 25 days or 2,500 hours in. If you're not serious about taking the exam, you probably shouldn't spend the money for a bar review course. Frankly, you're not going to spend more money on law school unless you pass the exam. So this is really where the rubber meets the road. Now, that may be bad news for some of you, but I can also tell you it's really good news because when you apply yourself, when you ask if you do what we ask you to do, if you give yourself enough time to prepare, which really in our course means about 125 hours in total, then you'll pass the exam. And you'll pass in much higher numbers than the overall pass rate for the state of California. So based on our experience, we know that we can help you get through this test. That's why we guarantee our product and our course. One final thing that I want to suggest to you, besides starting early, is to be aware of what the examiners are looking for. And you certainly will have to be prepared to make the investment of time, but you'll also have to be prepared to make an investment of money for this test. So one of the things that we do in the course, we know that you have to put in a fair amount of money. Whatever tuition you pay us for your baby bar course, we will credit that amount of tuition when you take our California General Bar exam in 2, 3, 4 years hence. And you can contact us and we'll be glad to give you the details. But we'll credit you dollar for dollar what you paid for this course off your California General Bar exam at the prevailing prices at that time. So that's one way to reduce your expenses. Now, as I said, if it turns out that you take the exam and you fail, you can avail yourself of our pass guarantee. I think we're one of the few, maybe the only course that offers a pass guarantee for the California Baby Bar. So that's a pretty cool thing. Finally, I mentioned the PASS program, the monthly payments. One of the great things, if you're thinking that you need the maximum amount of service but you don't have a lot of money as a big chunk, you can pay on a monthly basis. It's a great service. There's a video on our website that details the program, and I would encourage you to look into that. So it's a great way to find out about that and to get the maximum amount of services. Well, I think that's the information that you need. Where do you go from here? What's your next step? Well, since you're on the web watching this, I would encourage you to go ahead and visit our website pages about the California Baby Bar. Look at our pages about mentoring and premium mentoring and the PASS program. And if you're not on our website, it's celebrationbarreview.com. You'll find testimonials from past students. You'll find information about the exam in our course. You'll find current pricing, availability of courses, whether or not we have spots open right now. And you can order right online for exams for more than a year in advance. We do have a secure web server, and that's probably the fastest way to order your materials. Now, if you have specific questions and you'd like to talk to me, I invite you to call. I answer my own phone. The phone number toll-free is 1-800-840-6929, or you can email me, and I read my own email and I respond to it. It's jackson@celebrationbarreview.com. So I invite you to contact me. I'd love to talk with you. If you've taken this exam before and not passed, I particularly would like to talk with you and get a sense of what you're trying to accomplish and see if we can be of help. I'm quite confident that if you came to us because you absolutely have to pass your California Baby Bar, you've come to the right place. We can help you through this exam. We'll get you through it. We'll help you pass and get you ready to take your California General Bar exam in a few years. And really, that's the whole point, is to be able to ultimately be a member of the California Bar. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch and listen, and I look forward to talking with you and ultimately seeing your name on the roster of passing California Baby Bar students. Thanks.